everybody, and welcome to Macro Talk 2. It is Thursday, March the 12th, and you probably can't hear me very well. No, you can. I switched microphones, that's good. We're going to be going over there in just a minute, and things will probably fall apart when we do, but until then, we'll make use of this. Wonderful to see Joseph back. Joseph, we've been worried about you. Haven't seen you in a while. I tried to explain to everybody that when we did a 3-week intensive special on insect photography, that you probably wouldn't be here, and that was what I thought. But there you go. Glad to see you back again. And Harold's here, which reminds me to remind you that tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon we have crystal art. It's where we make birefringent crystals and then photograph them, and it's a fun thing to do. And some of the pictures are absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. Though this week, I have a feeling a lot of them are going to be fairly boring, because I discovered that not much boozy stuff makes crystals or makes birefringent crystals. So we'll see what people came up with. Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning until noon is per Zoom. If you are a member of Patreon, that means if you support my channel, you belong to the group that comes to Zoom. It's a group of macro photographers who all get together and we talk about whatever you want to talk about. And we go for 2 hours, and we do that twice a month. So if you have any interest in that, pop over to Patreon. It is www.patreon.com/AlanWallsPhotography, and that's my page. My website, which is where you will go to get the invitation for the crystals art tomorrow, is www.alanwallsphotography.com/blog/something. I think Rezo, R-E-S-O, but it'll be the most recent post, and it'll have the invitation in it. The invitations are also in the Patreon post for those of you who belong to Patreon, so you don't have to go looking for it. Okay, is that everything? I didn't write it down. I didn't write notes down because I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to get the studio ready for this demonstration that's not going to be a demonstration. I think it's just too fidgety, I think, to show you what I want to show you. It's probably going to be easier for me to take some photographs and then write it out, which is probably what I'll do in the blog post next week, because this is good stuff. This is interesting. What we're doing today is we're comparing two classic macro high magnification lenses. One that was the gold standard for the longest time, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and that's the Zeiss Luminar, which is only available through the generosity of one of my Patreon supporters who sent it to me, so thank you again for that. And this is a wonderful lens. They made a whole range of these lenses: 16 millimeters, 25 millimeters, 40 millimeters, on up to about 100 millimeters. And they all serve different purposes, but they all have some features in common, being flat field and having a huge image circle, unlike a lot of modern microscope objectives. This lens, which I'm going to show you in just a minute, also has an aperture, a field diaphragm, that, I beg your pardon, an internal diaphragm that you can change on the lens, though there's really no reason ever to do so, as I'll show you when we look at it. We're comparing that, which is basically a finite microscope objective with an aperture added to it. We're going to compare that to an old standard of ours, which is the Mitutoyo M Plan. That's a metallurgic infinity corrected microscope objective, and we're going to be using the 20x one. The reason for that is I mistakenly said we were going to be comparing it to the 5, and that wouldn't have made any sense, because the Zeiss Luminar, its sweet spot, it's at its most highly corrected at 16 times magnification, between 10 and 20, but they say 16 is the sweet spot. So what I did was I thought if we could get them both to the same magnification, because that's very important when we're comparing the quality of the images, then we'd have a much more apples to apples comparison if we were to just use the Mitutoyo at its usual magnification of 20, and then just add a little extension to the Zeiss. The Zeiss was designed to operate within a range of magnifications, meaning that you can move the bellows forwards and backwards to get the magnification that you're looking for, and it will be fairly well corrected between 10 and 20x, though it will give you much more magnification than that if you demand it by adding another bellows. But you'll see I'm completely maxed out on the bellows. Now, I've done a lot of stuff before we started today to try to smooth it out so that I wouldn't be stumbling around trying to do things in the dark in the studio, and I didn't get to doing the photographs that I wanted to do, but I've got enough to be able to show you some of the issues that you're going to encounter if you get your hands on one of these lenses. There are some interesting results that I got from using both of these yesterday that are completely consistent, I think, with what other people have got, and we will talk about that when we get to the end. We're not really doing a comparison as in buy this or buy the other one. It's more of they're both different tools. They do things differently, they operate differently, they were built with a different philosophy in mind, and the images that you get are different in a very interesting way that I rather enjoy. Okay, so obviously you know that if we're using an infinity corrected microscope objective in one of the systems, it has to be used with a tube lens, and that is what this 200mm lens is doing. It's acting as a tube lens. I was using this the other day and decided to just keep it like this. It doesn't matter what tube lens you use. If you have the ITL 200 from Thor Labs, or if you're using a Raynox, it doesn't really matter. So long as it's set up correctly and you get the correct magnification. Now, what I did before you guys arrived, or before I arrived, I guess you could say, I double checked that my magnification was exactly the same, and I did that by mounting the Mitutoyo and using a stage micrometer to measure the size of the frame, and unsurprisingly it came out at about 18 millimeters. 18 millimeters being exactly what it should come out at 20x. That is what you would expect to see, would be 18 millimeters across. No, 1.8 millimeters across, sorry, forgive me, but that's they're both the same. I changed the extension on the Zeiss so that we had identical magnification, and that's what we're going to be looking at in just a second. So for the pictures that I have taken, but the ones that I'm going to show in the article on Monday are going to be strict in that they use the same camera, the same sensor, the same lighting as much as possible. The subject is the same, and the magnification is the same, like we just described. And if I end up stacking the images, which may not be necessary because these are all flat images, then I'll use the same step size given the magnification, and the same software to stack it all. So everything will be stable except the lens that I'm using. And let me see, the subjects, I tried several things. I tried a couple of computer chips. I think they were a little bit too flat, though I may try them again this afternoon. I used some coins which worked well, and some very, very fine stainless steel mesh that I have that was great for showing flatness. One of the problems is with my my stage in getting everything completely perpendicular and flat to the optical path. It's very difficult right now because I don't have everything set up for that kind of precision, but I will in the next couple of days for the final pictures. So that's I think that's what we're looking at. Let's go over and take a look at the system, and bear with me because it's going to take just a minute because I have to switch cameras. So hold on just a mo, and let's see if this does it. No, maybe that. Nope. How about that? There you go. So at some point you should see me again, and also you should see a picture from the camera. Do you mind if I go and take a look and see? Otherwise I'll be talking to myself. All right. Excellent. Well, what we have, I'm going to put this lens up before I drop it. There we go. Now I can relax a bit. Let me move a couple of these cameras around. So here we are at the business end of the setup. Let me see if I can. I don't have a monitor, by the way, so I can't see what you're seeing, which is probably not a bad idea. So hopefully you can see this without too much rocking. There we go. All right, so I have a sample. It's just a stage micrometer that's mounted vertically at the working distance of the Luminar. The Luminar, interestingly, hold on just a second, I'll try to tighten this so it doesn't wobble as much. The Luminar has an aperture ring right at the end here. I don't know if you can see that on either of these cameras. What a mess, eh? You know what would probably help would be getting rid of some of the light that's shining directly in there. Hopefully you can see some of that. This is the aperture ring, and there's really no point changing it. Yeah, you leave it wide open and you use it wide open. The reason is, look at the amount of extension on this system. I have my bellows, PB6 bellows, fully extended, plus an adapter and a little stack of lens adapters at the end. So it comes out to more than 230 millimeters. And yeah, that's what it takes to get up to 16x or 20x, I should say. But the point is, of course, that with this amount of extension, you don't have a tremendous amount of light getting through this system. And you also have an effective aperture that is through the roof. I mean, absolutely. Even at f4, which is one stop down from wide open, the effective f number is about 86, I think. I calculated roughly 86. But so far into the diffraction zone that you can actually see the diffraction as it happens. Let me actually do that and show you. Oh dear, I don't think this camera is going to reach quite far enough. What a shocking mess this is down here. Anyhow, what I'm going to do is put some light back on the subject as near as possible, and we'll try to get it in as good a focus as we can. It's slightly not flat, as you can see, but what I want to show you is what happens when we close down the aperture, and it's pretty amazing how quickly it gets soft. You may well be wondering, if this is a microscope objective, why are we not talking about its numeric aperture? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're going to be comparing, is the type of sharpness and resolution we get from the Mitutoyo mounted on the Micro Nikkor 200 compared to this little lens mounted on the bellows. Well, it turns out that there's a fairly straightforward way to calculate a numeric aperture. from an F number. And of course, because we can change the aperture size on this lens, that also will change the numeric aperture. So we have a variable numeric aperture, but at its wide open position, the way we'd use it today, is 0.3 or thereabouts. It's somewhere between 0.28 and 0.31. And I have I've actually got a trick I can show you. I'm not going to be able to demonstrate it because I forgot to go up and get the other piece of tin foil that I need. But there is a trick to actually measure the numeric aperture of a lens if you have one like this and you're interested in finding out what the NA is. But needless to say, the NA on the Mitutoyo is 0.42. And on this lens, it is significantly less than that. So that will, you would expect to see considerably less resolution. But that's actually not exactly what happens, and that's going to be quite interesting. So if we're looking, I do hope that the picture is showing up on the screen. But we're in focus now. It's hard getting light on that one edge. Let me try something. I think that's going to be as good as we get. All right, so the idea is I want to see what happens when we shut down that aperture. So let's have a look at what happens when we do that. Right now it is wide open. So as we move it just a little, that is one stop. It starts to darken right away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a longer and longer shutter speed and as high as the ISO will go. Yeah, not good, is it? But as we increase a little further, that's opening it up again, forgive me. So that's it wide open, and as we close it down, you'll be able to see if you blow these pictures up that they get considerably softer about halfway through the process. So the rule of thumb would be if you're using it for high magnification, which is the whole point of this lens, leave it wide open. It's the only way it makes any sense to use it. So what I did was I took a couple of photographs with each of these setups. The things that you'll notice when you do that is they're both tricky to use, but the working distance on the Luminar is only about 6 millimeters. The working distance on the Mitutoyo is closer to 20-21 millimeters. That is a huge difference when it comes to lighting if you're using multiple sources like I tend to do. When the lighting is this difficult, you end up oftentimes under diffusing the light, which is fairly problematic. There are reasons that you would like to keep the light well diffused, but it is really difficult to get enough light into the system for this particular lens. Now, one thing that you'll also notice right away is if you start out using the Mitutoyo objective, that tends to vignette on a full frame sensor. You get black corners, actually, not just softness or loss of detail, but you actually get darkened corners when you're using the Mitutoyo at, of course, infinity on the relay lens and focus to infinity. So at its optimal performance envelope, you're still getting the vignetting. That does not happen with this lens. There is no vignetting. As far as I can tell, it is every bit as sharp at the corners, or it was with the computer chips anyway, every bit as sharp at the corners as it is in the center. It's impressive. Probably the thing I liked about it most And the thing that you will see if you use this for any amount of time is that it doesn't look as quite as sharp as the Mitutoyo, but it looks nicer. It's almost like it has a punchy sharpness in the middle part of the image that is a little bit more pleasing to look at. I think that the contrast in the detail in the central portion of the image, and actually to the edges, has a quality that is a little different than what I would expect to see in a Mitutoyo. I will show you some pictures that demonstrate that properly at the first chance I get. I'm going to circle back around to the desk, hopefully without tripping over anything. Bear with me. Here I am back again. That was a little harrowing doing that. The photography is the same as using any high magnification system. There's nothing different you have to do. You have to be absolutely certain that you've got rid of all the vibration that you can through the design of your system. One of the hard parts is if you're using a flat subject like a coin, is getting it absolutely flat. If you're going to try and do it in just a very few photographs, which is the best way to do it. So the edge detail and the resolution are slightly more impressive in some of the photographs with the Mitutoyo, but the tonal separation and the detail within the photograph is slightly better with the Luminar. I was surprised by how good it was, actually. It's a beautiful picture. Now, correction, the Mitutoyo is of course an apochromatically corrected infinity objective, so it corrects in all three of the wavelength groups, and it is a fantastic lens for color correction. And you will see that there is a little bit of chromatic aberration, just a little bit, with the Luminar, but it is also a well-corrected lens. This lens was designed from the ground up to be used as a high magnification photographic lens. It wasn't designed to go on a microscope. It wasn't designed to go on a telescope or anything else. It wasn't an industrial lens. It was designed for photographers to take the best possible pictures that they could at high magnification. And that is one of the reasons that this lens is still so incredibly popular, years and years after they stopped making them. Cost is worth comparing too. You know, we got our 5X Mitutoyos from a friend in New Mexico who sold a bunch of them to you guys, and we got them at a crazy low price of like $400, I think, $450, something like that. The 20X is considerably more expensive than that. They sell for a couple of thousand most places. And this the Zeiss lens, even though it is quite rare and definitely a collectible optic, they sell anywhere from about $300 to $500, depending on their condition and packaging and what have you. But you can pick them up. Not many, and the 16 is pretty rare. The 40 is rare as well, but they're available, and if you look, you'll find them. Sometimes you can even buy them in a set, the full set. And I'm impressed enough with this particular lens that I will probably be looking for a couple of other focal lengths. Very, very nice. the working distance is a problem. The working distance is very, very short. Thank goodness the numeric aperture is a little bit lower than the similarly similar magnification Mitutoyo, because with a lower NA you have a smaller cone of acceptance for light, and you can get your lights in there a little closer and be less concerned about direction. That's what I was going to tell you. The thing I did as an experiment today, I was reading about it, and I was so excited to find out it actually worked, and then I left my piece of foil upstairs. But if you want to actually measure the numeric aperture of a lens like the Zeiss Luminar, or any lens that you, any microscope objective that you have laying around, you don't know what the NA is, you should, because it's stamped on the side of the barrel. But if not, or if you want to check it, all you have to do is make a very, very, very small hole in a piece of tin foil. Sorry, I'm checking to see if there's a problem with my audio, because when one of you guys calls me, it's usually a problem. Don't see that there's a problem with the audio, so hopefully you do hear me. And where was I? Oh, the pinhole. You stick a tiny little pinhole into the through the foil. Right in the center, and then put a nice bright LED behind it and center it on your stage. Then you focus the whole system, the full extension with Zeiss Luminar on the end and your camera on the other end. You focus it on that pinhole, and you want to position it at the dead center of the frame. Okay, that's the first part. Then all you have to do is move it laterally, and you can use your little twiddly motion thing on your XYZ platform. Move it laterally, and the strangest thing happens is when you get to a certain point, the dot will disappear. And when the dot disappears, if you look at where it is now, where the subject is compared to where it was, you can actually triangulate the half angle of the cone of acceptance for the light that's supposed to be getting to the camera. As soon as the dot disappears, you have gone outside of the acceptance angle. So measure the distance from your lens to the subject, and then the distance you've had to move to the side. When I did it, it was 2.5 millimeters. I had to move 2.5 millimeters to the side, and then the cone disappeared. I mean, the light spot disappeared. When I measured everything, it came out as, oh, what was it? I'm going to have to find my little piece of paper where I scribbled everything down. But looking at the formula, it came out at exactly 0.31, which is what the book says it's supposed to be. So it actually works. If you want to measure a numeric aperture, that's how you find it, is by seeing when you get out of the cone of light. It's good to know. It's a good practical way to remember it. Okay, the lighting that you use with these two lenses is difficult to use in both of them. It is difficult to get good lighting in both, but it is slightly harder, I think, with the Mitutoyo, because the light tends to be dramatically different with very small changes of light position, or addition of another light, or moving in or out from the subject. The tiniest changes can result in the most frustrating differences in lighting. The Luminar doesn't appear to be that sensitive, so I can move the lights around a bit more aggressively and not worry about having to start everything over again. Yeah, you see what you get. Field curvature was not really a huge issue with both. Certainly the Luminar was sharp corner to corner, pretty impressively so, suggesting that the field was flat. I still am not absolutely sure that my Mitutoyo 20X is in completely normal good shape, because I do get some very slight loss of defocus at the edges, which does in fact look like more field curvature than there's supposed to be with that lens. But that's neither here nor there. You have to test these things against the objectives that you've got. I completely forgot I had another one handy that I should have tried as well, but that only works with the coaxial lighting. The focusing is about the same on both. You know, as your numeric aperture increases with any microscope optic, your resolving power increases, but your depth of field decreases. So the more your numeric aperture climbs, sorry about that. It's one of you guys, and I don't know. Oh, the video's buffering. Okay, I'll tell you what. That is probably related to the weather that we've had. We had problems on Tuesday. I wonder if turning off some cameras would help. That seems a bit risky, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let's see if that helps. Okay. Any buffering, let me know. Art, thank you for letting me know. Let me know if it goes away, if you don't mind, Art. That was strange. I don't know. We had bad weather, and the weather's passed, but I think there are still some electrical problems around. Anyhow, the tube lens has an impact, I think, on the final image. Anytime you have to go through additional glass elements, it causes potential problems. I'm not sure that there was anything that I would attribute to the tube lens. This is a particularly good tube lens that I'm using, and yeah, I'm not sure that added any problems. It certainly added more light. The other thing I'd mention is that with the Mitutoyo objective, you are somewhat telecentric. You're almost telecentric with that objective, which I think is going to help with stacking. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to stack an image with the Zeiss yet, but when I do, I'll be very interested to see what the artifact situation is and see if there are any other compounding issues. But you know, I think that comparing the fine structure, the edge detail, the detail in the central part of the picture, micro contrast, and the handling of colors and tones, they're both equally flat. The chromatic correction is really hard to tell a difference between the two, and you know, the lighting is hard for both. Can't exaggerate that. So if there was a difference, it's more of an artistic one, and it's just, I think that the pictures with the Luminar are a bit prettier. Go figure. You'll have to look at them and see if you agree, but it's a simple setup. It reminds me a lot of using the old Amscope 4X objective on a bit of extension. Unlike that lens, this particular lens is, like I say, designed to be used with a range of different magnifications. So much the way you would do with a reversed enlarger lens. You could crank that thing backwards and forwards and change magnification all day long without significantly changing the aberration correction behavior of the lens. So it's similar in that respect. The Mitutoyo then is quite a bit more expensive. It's a bigger hassle to set up. It's probably about as difficult to use, with the exception of the lighting. The long working distance does make a huge difference, and it's one of the things that you're going to have to compromise if you go with one of these. The most striking feature of the Luminar then is its contrast. It's not forcefully different. It's subtly different, but in a nice way. What I think I'll do is I'm gonna get some really good representative pictures this afternoon, and I will post them on my website, and I will not tell you which image was which. And I'll put, I don't know, 3 or 4 pairs up there, and look at them and tell me. We'll do a little poll. Leave a message under the photographs and tell me for each of them which one is the Luminar and which one is the Mitutoyo. And if you get it right, I might give you a prize. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, we'll do that. I'll work on those pictures this afternoon. I wish I hadn't just committed to do that, because I've got to do my taxes today as well. But I'll do these pictures first. So there's not a lot in it. These lenses were so popular back in the 70s and 80s because there was nothing else that did what they did. There was nothing else that gave you this kind of high magnification with clarity and contrast. And yeah, it was difficult to light, but what were you comparing it to? A microscope objective that had a working distance of 0.5 millimeter? This was luxury compared to that. And of course, the infinity corrected microscope objectives hadn't been invented yet. I wonder when they were invented. Probably around the 80s, end of the 80s, I'm guessing. But anyway, when they came around, when Mitutoyos became available, even though they were more expensive, people immediately saw the advantage to using them, though it was not an advantage in image quality. The sensor coverage is not as good with the Mitutoyo, and the cost is 4 times as much if you can find the Luminar. But they still have a really rabid following. A lot of coin photographers, I think, like these lenses and use them frequently. So I can certainly understand why. It is a gorgeous little lens. It's a shame about the aperture being absolutely useless, but if you have an aperture that gives you what am I trying to say? The effective aperture. The effective aperture is so high at the starting out place with a wide open diaphragm that by the time you get up to a diaphragm that could give you some depth of field, it's all over. I mean, you're not getting any light in there, and your effective aperture's in the hundreds. So yeah, it's definitely a consideration. If you've ever thought about getting one of these, do shop around. Every now and again they appear at lower prices, but I'd be a bit, more than a bit, I'd be very cautious of Mitutoyo, Zeiss Luminars that are showing up for under $200. Makes you think they probably bounced off the floor or something. Yeah, it's definitely worth looking for one. And let me see. I don't think there was anything else that I had in my notes that just was crucially important. Working distance, we talked about depth of field. the depth of field with the Mitutoyo 20 is dramatically less than it is with the Luminar, because of the higher NA and the fact that, you know, that's the Mitutoyo 20X, you're sub-stepping, you're using fractional steps for sure if you want to get a good sampling of the picture, but yeah, the Luminar is about 3/4 of the NA, so you should be able to get away with that without any problem. Let me see. I think that covers pretty much everything that I had in my notes. Let me see. There was one other thing. I was going to tell you something about the relationship between the f number and the numeric aperture, just because I looked it all up again today, and it's been a while since I looked at it. But there is a relationship. There is a formula that you can use to calculate the f number or the numeric aperture. You're going to know one of them. But for a lens like this, it would be really handy. And providing you're using the lens in air, then the formula is NA equals, what is it? Can't read this. No, I literally can't read it. My printer printed the words so small. I need a magnifying glass. Oh, I've got one. Nope, it's out of focus. Okay, so it's 1 over, what is it? Twice the focal length? That's right, that's the formula. Is that an ABI formula? I believe it may be. Numeric aperture is the effective f number. Nope. Forget I said that. I'll put this in the written note too. I swear I cannot read my my notes. They're just too tiny. So in macro we talk a lot about the effective f number, and you know how you calculate that. It's the effective the f number is the f number on your lens times 1 plus the magnification, and that will give you what you're actually shooting through. Of course, it's simply that as your aperture moves further and further away from the camera sensor, it gets smaller and smaller, and that's all we're talking about here. So there is actually an effective NA as well, which I've never heard the term before, and I read it in an optics book this week. But yeah, the effective f number and the effective NA have the same relationship. So here's my calculations on the Luminar. When I said it was set at f4 at 16 times magnification, which is what I'm using it at, that gives me an effective f number of 68, not 86. Forgive me, it's still pretty terrible though. And the NA it comes from what is it? Twice that 68. It comes out to an NA of that's not right. I have a mistake in this too. Just ignore me. Do the maths yourself. You're probably better at it than I am. Definitely, if you want to know if you want to know the NA of your Luminar or any other lens like that, probably the best thing to do is just measure it. But unless you're really good at mathematics, and I wish I could read what the one item I have in these formulae. It can't be theta, but I guess we'll just ignore it. I can't see it. It printed too small. So let me see. That's about everything I had. I'm going to jump over to the site and visit with you guys for a moment. I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything. yeah. Is anybody thinking of getting one of these? Does anybody have one of these? And if you do, what do you use it for? And what are the biggest problems you have? I know that I'm pretty sure Joseph has a couple of these lenses. Joseph, do you still use them? Do you still prefer them for some subjects? I can certainly see how that would be something I would want to do going forward. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was just the reciprocal. That's why I couldn't read it, because there wasn't actually a number there. It's just 1 over. Yeah. Forget about it. I'll tell you what. I'm going to start reading those notes because they're giving me a migraine. They're so tiny on the page. So let me run over to the YouTube site and see who all is here. Lots of comments. A message from Harold. Made it through the storms. Plan on being at Crystal Art tomorrow. Fantastic. Look forward to seeing you, Harold. Yes, I made it through the storms, though we've had some patchy electrical issues since, and I hope that buffering stopped. Let me see. Alistair. Clocks. Your clocks are changing in the UK, Alistair? I thought they changed about 2 weeks after ours do. Anyway, everybody's glad to see Joseph is back. Joseph, we were concerned about you. People would ask about you every time we did a live stream. Somebody would say, "Where's Joseph?" So glad you're back. It's not the same without you. And let me see. David Brown has left his clocks wrong, so that he can match up with my live stream times, which makes no sense whatsoever, because I've fixed my clocks. They're working now. Let me see. There is a 2-week crossover between here and the US. So for the next week, you're like 5 hours ahead in the UK from us Central Time. I think that's right. And then it gets back to 6 when your clocks change in 2 weeks. You know, the whole thing is a bit of a mess. I'm not sure why we do it. I know why we did it was because of farmers. I guess they couldn't find the sheep's udders in the dark. So that's why we do daylight savings time. But I think it's a royal pain. I hate the short days. But yeah, of course, when the weather's like this, it doesn't matter. They're all short days. But there you go. Joseph, the 16mm Luminar is optimized for 20x. And in typical Zeiss fashion, it is rated for half that to twice that, 10 to 40x. That is correct, but you're wrong about optimization for 20 millimeters. I mean 20 times magnification. I actually saw that in the official Zeiss handbook thing that I downloaded from the internet. And you know, everything on the internet is true. You left out the 63. Yes, I did. I left out the 63. I don't have a 63, and so I can't compare it to the 5x Mitutoyo that I have. I was comparing the only Zeiss Luminar that I have in my possession, and that's why we went with 20. All right, let me see. Western Canada. David was running late. Glad you made it, sir. And let me see. Alan is in the next time zone to me, so it really doesn't matter when his projected time is. It's like every live stream has jet lag. That's how I feel after them sometimes, so maybe you're onto something there. Let me see. Anybody got good plans for the weekend? Photographic plans? Has the weather improved sufficiently for anybody to go outside and take pictures? I hope so. That's what I would like to do. So Extension for the 16, 25, 40 and 63 luminars is 250 millimeters back flange to focal plane. Well, that's about what I've got with all of my additional bits and pieces on that rig. It's right at 250. That's a lot of extension, which is, I think, part of the problem. It's not a microscope objective. It's a macroscope objective. Yeah, it was made for the AWPhotography, I believe, and it was a macroscopic lens. That's actually one of the things we talked about while you were gone, Joseph. We got into the discussion of these particular lenses and what they were used for. So if I said it was a microscope objective, that was an oversight on my part. I didn't mean to say so. It was most definitely designed and made and sold as a photographic lens, faux show. And let me see, if you've never had the pleasure of using a Zeiss optic, you have missed out, says Joseph. I have missed out. Send me yours and I will try it and then send it back. The working distance for the 16mm Luminar is 11.5 millimeters, and the Mitutoyo is 20. What did I say? You are being very picky, because I said 6. It is 6. I'm absolutely sure of it. I mean, I measured it 3 times with a caliper, and the 20 is 20 millimeters, the 20x Mitutoyo. So I'm going to challenge you on that one, Joseph. Presumably that working distance you've come up with there is when it's at the magnification we're talking about and wide open, but I did not get 11.5. Or are you measuring the working distance from the principal plane or something? I'm measuring it from the front of the lens to the subject, and it's about 6 millimeters. All right, Pierre is here from France. Greetings. Bonsoir, says David, who must be Canadian. There you go. That would explain the French. And then they start talking in times that just have decimal points and too many numbers. So I'll take it that's the middle of the night. All right. Let me see. The video was buffering and then it stopped, and all is good. All right. This is difficult to follow, says Arthur, so I need to say see you on Saturday. So Arthur's already left, but what we'll do on Saturday, if need be, at the Zoom meeting, we'll carve out a few minutes and answer any questions you have, and I'll give you a sneak peek at the photographs that are going to be published on the website, so you can get to see them too. We'll do that during the Zoom. Let me see. The Mitutoyo only is designed for a 22mm field with a 200mm tube lens. You need to take it up to about 400mm to get corner-to-corner quality with a full-frame camera. Right. Righty-ho. Yep. Knew it and have been living with it ever since I've been using those lenses. They were similar to Light's Photars and Nikon Macro Nikkors. Okay, good enough. And Joseph's favorites are the 25 and the 50mm Luminars. I would love to try the 25. The 16 is a bit challenging, but yeah, it sounds like it all gets a wee bit easier. Important, do not confuse epi luminars with regular luminars. The Zeiss epi illumination system was notorious for overheating lenses. And me, he says. Okay. KEH Camera has a 16 Luminar for sale. How much, John? How much are they asking for it? Be interesting to know. Let me see. I think we're about at the end of the... Oh, Ingolf it was late because he forgot about the time change. Sorry, guys. I should have said something in the blog post. It's so traumatic to me that I tend to forget about it as soon as it's happened. Okay. Let me see. I do indeed prefer them for bellows draw, rear standard, focus stacking. Yeah, that is actually, I think, probably one of the primary ways I would use it with rear bellows focus. Joseph, do you have an extra length bellows that you're using to get you the extension you need? I'd be interested to know if you're using if you're using a Nikon bellows, if you have the Nikon extension. I'm going to have to get one. All right. Lindolfi has the Luminar 100, 1 to 6.3, and the 40, 1 to 4.5, and have never been very impressed by them compared with later designs. Interesting. I wonder why that is, Lindolfi. Be interesting to talk to you and find out what kind of issues you've had with those, because I've heard a lot of really nice things about that 40mm lens. Yeah, well, let us know if there's any other information you can share. Let me see. The Photar 12.5mm 1 to 2.4 was disappointing. Okay, I haven't used that lens, so I don't know. What do you use it for, Lindolfi? What's your what is your photography of choice? What are you photographing? Coins or stamps or that type of thing? I'd be interested to know. David is bilingual, which is a personal thing, I think, but congratulations. I think it's a thing in Canada. I think you have to play hockey, you have to enjoy curling, and you have to speak 2 languages. Working distances from the Zeiss catalog. You got the fake Zeiss catalog, I think, the one that tells stories. Horrible homemade view camera. I keep going through iterations on the good design too quickly to get used to it. Understood. I do the same thing. All right, guys, it is just about time. We've got a minute or so left. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Yeah, the 12.5 Photar does not have a good rep, says Joseph. Well, the 16 certainly is a nice lens, the Luminar. So yeah, anybody coming to Crystals tomorrow? I was going to tell you that almost everything that I tried to crystallize did not work, but I found a workaround. I think I'll show this to you tomorrow during the meeting, because it's a bit cheaty what I did, but I'll show you tomorrow. The 16 Luminar is listed for $264, and it says excellent condition. How interesting! That is considerably less. That's about what 1/8 of the price that you'd pay for a 20x Mitutoyo used. Very good. Well, that's good to know that they're out there and they're in good condition. Okay, guys. Well, do have a great rest of the week, great weekend. I hope to see you on a Saturday, or well, tomorrow actually, and then on Saturday. And yeah, we'll get back to a little less hectic things as normal on Monday. Keep your eyes open for the photographs from today, which will be up on my website as soon as I can get them done. All right, guys, have a good one. Thank you for coming. And Joseph, it's good to have you back in the fold. We missed you. See you guys. Have a good day.